For many Jamaicans living abroad, the dream of returning home after years, sometimes decades away, is filled with nostalgia and hope. We envision reuniting with family, enjoying the island's natural beauty, and investing in our homeland by starting businesses and building homes. However, for many returning residents, the reality of reintegrating into Jamaican society is far more complex. From bureaucratic red tape to cultural adjustments and financial struggles, the process of returning home is often filled with unexpected challenges. Despite our contributions to the economy through remittances and investments, many returning residents find ourselves feeling like outsiders in our own country. This episode explores the major struggles faced by Jamaicans returning home, particularly when it comes to starting a business, dealing with government bureaucracy, and adjusting to the system that often feels unnecessarily difficult. Hey y'all, welcome to Jet Setting with Jackie. Today I am out in Ocho Rios. I'm at Margaritaville or Island Village or whichever y'all refer to it as, right next to Ocean's 11. So today I wanted to do an updated video about return and residence, and I wanted to touch on some topics. The topics I wanted to touch on is some of the bureaucracies that we face as return and residents, maybe talk about some of the safety concerns that I see online and the cost of doing business here in Jamaica. And of course, finally, just what adjusting back to life in Jamaica is like. Because I've seen some things online and I've also been asked a lot of these questions over the years. So, from my experience, I would love to share an updated version of what it's like to be a returning resident in Jamaica. I definitely feel like now is the time to do this. One, because, well, there's a lot of people looking to come back home, first off. And secondly, well, no, that's pretty much the majority of the reason right there. Nowadays, the world is just a different place, and a lot of people are looking to come back home, whether that looks like a voluntary return or even an involuntary return. Either way, I think the information that I'm going to provide will be valuable no matter what caused you to come back home. So let's go ahead and jump right into this video. So this video is not in any way to obviously bash Jamaica or even over sensationalize what the return of residence process is like. It's really just to share my honest opinion and some opinions from people that are either in the process of coming back home or some of my clients' concerns or even people that came back and we're exchanging stories. I'm just going to share it from those perspectives and also definitely from mine. So, the first thing I want to talk about is I don't want to say it's the myth of the seamless homecoming kind of thing, but most people know that coming back to Jamaica is not always the most smooth process. A lot of the times when you come back as a returning resident, you don't necessarily get looked at the same as a regular Jamaican that's born here, raised here, and never left. For some reason, people tend to believe that just because we've lived overseas and now that we're coming back home, that, yeah, we're not necessarily Jamaicans anymore. They look at us more so as if we're foreigners, which we're really not. We're Jamaicans. And I know personally for me, I have the expectation that people are going to look at me as a Jamaican because I live here. I Yes, I lived overseas, but Jamaica's home for me. A lot of these people, when I come out into, say, I'm in Ochi Town, they still look at me as if I'm a foreigner. A lot of the times, they still want to sell me things that they sell foreigners. And I'm like, no, I live here. I don't want any jewelry today. I don't want any of this, or I don't want any tours. I live here. So that little part of it can get annoying at times just because we don't necessarily fit the same exact mold just because we might walk a certain way, talk a certain way, look a certain way, dress a certain way. Whatever it is, they are able to notice it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because sometimes I can spot someone that I know used to live in the UK just because of some of their mannerisms or the way they dress or the way that they present themselves. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that they can spot us as foreigners, but at the same time, I love this. But at the same time, I don't necessarily want to be treated as a foreigner. So there's those little nuances when it comes to, coming back home and feeling like you should just be able to integrate yourself back into normal Jamaican life. That can be a bit frustrating. Another thing to think about is the fact that Jamaica operates on a total different pace than most foreign countries. The services that we typically get overseas or the quickness of those services is not always the same in Jamaica. For example, going to the bank to perform a simple transaction can take you hours out of your day just to make deposits and withdrawals. It's not as simple as going to an ATM and popping your card in and sending your funds off and things like that. It's not the same. So that is something else that we have to contend with as returning residents. The next topic I wanted to touch on is just the red tape and the bureaucracies when it comes to doing anything here in Jamaica, especially when it comes to financial institutions or even just trying to get things done when it comes to business. That has proven to be the most difficult things for me, and I know I made a whole video about what my experience was like reactivating my bank account here in Jamaica. And notice I said reactivating. I didn't even say opening a new bank account. And that whole process felt like I was a new customer that's never had a bank account before. That's what the process felt like. And even more so, it was a frustrating experience. If you haven't seen it, please do go check out that video. It's on my channel. It'll kind of give you an idea of what that process is like, and it's not a good one. The next thing that has been a pain point for me, especially, is when it comes to doing certain things like business wise here in Jamaica. I'm not sure what the purpose is as to why things just seem like they're so difficult to get done. Recently, I've been working on getting my vehicle registered here with a red plate. And in order to do that, it is a pretty long and extensive process. You literally have to go through upgrading your license, and not to mention what the license process is. But I'll break it down to you. In order to in order to get a red plate in Jamaica for a vehicle, you have to have a PPV license. Now, when I first came back here in 2021, I originally got a regular license. That way I could operate my vehicles here. Not that I couldn't on my US license, but I really wanted to get my Jamaican license. So I got my license, and in order to upgrade to a PPV license, you have to have your driver's license for 2 years here in Jamaica because they consider your Jamaican license to be a young license. Now, as someone that had been driving for 20 plus years in the US and have also come to Jamaica and had been driving in Jamaica since 2010, it didn't make a lot of sense to me as to why I would be considered a young driver, considering I've been driving for 20 years and I've been driving on Jamaica roads legally for 10 plus years at this point. So to me, that was a little frustrating because now that I've gotten my Jamaican license, you're treating me as if I'm someone that's never had a license before. So I, waited for the 2 years to be up. And once that was up, I went to upgrade my license. So following the rules like you guys asked, I go and I get my license upgraded at the end of last year. Now it's time to get the red plate process done for my vehicle. I went to the insurance office last week or the week before, and I was told that in order for me to be able to go through the process and to get my red plate and to have the vehicle active, I would now have to have a driver that's had a license, a PPV license for more than 2 years attached to my road license. So, meaning me, the owner of the vehicle, cannot drive any passenger in that vehicle until my license has matured in another 2 years. So now that's pretty frustrating considering I waited 2 years to upgrade my license. Now my insurance company is now telling me that this is a policy and it's not just them. I have to wait another 2 years because now my PPV license is too young. Now, if you are someone who's a returning resident, that your career overseas was a driver, a professional driver, whether you drove trucks, taxi, whatever, and you decide to come back to Jamaica and you want to be a taxi driver, or you want to drive tourists, or whatever the case may be, this I can see how it could be a very big deterrent for you and a frustrating pain point because that would mean that you would not be able to operate your business for 4 years in Jamaica. And meaning, even if you do it the way that I'm doing it, where I have a licensed driver that's had a PPV license for 2 years plus, now you have to pay someone to drive for you because you have to wait 2 years. Even after you've waited 2 years already to get your regular license. To me, that's a lot of red tape, and it shouldn't be the case for returning residents. Like, I think the fact that we have lived an established life overseas, we've had careers, we've had experiences that when you come back to Jamaica, it's like it doesn't count. Even for nurses, like nurses overseas that have to come back to Jamaica, it's like they're going through this long, drawn out process that takes forever just to get a license here. Considering my cousin's been an RN in the US for years, but to get her license here in Jamaica, she started the process last year and it's still going. So imagine what that's like when you want to come back to your home country. You have all this knowledge, you have all this experience, and you cannot even do anything with it. Your hands are tied because you have to either one, sit around and wait because of the way that the policies and the rules are written, or that's just what I've always heard is that's just the way it is. That's just how Jamaica is. Well, why don't it change? Why does it have to be like that? Considering we have not lived here, I'm not I'm not advocating for cutting corners or jumping, over steps. All I'm asking for is some accommodation and the understanding that because I wasn't here does not mean that I should not have the opportunity to come back home and make a life for myself without feeling like my hands are tied when it comes to starting my business and operating and making money to sustain my life here. A lot of returning residents come back and they open businesses. They hire people. They are putting money into the Jamaican economy. And it's like, for whatever reason, we don't get the same Like, we don't get the same, I don't want to call it accommodation, but we don't get the same accommodations that certain businesses that are coming into the country that are not from here, that they get. Like, I don't think that we're asking for too much. I just think we're asking for what it is that we should rightfully get as Jamaicans. Let me know your thoughts on this. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the cost of doing business here in Jamaica. And I know this topic is probably a bit of a touchy one. In order for you to get things done, it's like you have to grease this person's palm and you have to slide this person a couple dollars just so that things don't get hung up in the process. It's like if you don't know somebody in the office or you're not paying somebody, the process becomes so cumbersome and so frustrating that it almost deters you from actually getting anything done sometimes. Like, why should I have to pay extra just to get a simple process that is supposed to be done anyway by these offices done? But it's like it's the nature of doing business in Jamaica. And as unfortunate as that is, it seems like because it's become the norm, it's expected. And if you don't participate, then things like this happen where your application process takes forever for you to get anything done. Also, Jamaica does not make it very easy to do business here. Like, I can start a business right now online, apply for my EIN number, and fill out my application and have my business name and all of that stuff registered and ready to go and operate in a few days. In Jamaica, you literally have to be running from office to office to office. Like, why is it that things are not done in like central locations? Like, you go to this one office and you take care of registering your business and it's done. No, you have to go over here. Then you have to go over there. And then when you get over there, they ask you for other things. And then you come back over here and they ask you for something different. And then they send you back down there and you're all over the place and you've spent days. You spent gas. You spent your time. You spent your effort and your energy. And most of the time, you still don't have everything done. It's like just the aggravation of the process itself makes you not want to do it. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is this like an intentional thing? Because why would you not want people to be able to establish businesses legitimately? That way, that's bringing in income tax for Jamaica. That's bringing in sales tax for Jamaica. That's bringing in business tax. Like, that is only going to help the Jamaican economy when we do this. So it's like, why would you not want us returning residents to have the process simplified so that we can start to operate and make money for Jamaica? It's not costing Jamaica anything. Just just the whole process of just doing everything just becomes so extra and so cumbersome for no particular reason. It just it don't make sense. Like, if there's one thing that I can say that we can improve upon is the fact that a lot of the things that are done here could be simplified. Another portion of the cost of doing business that I actively participate in is when it comes to the construction side of business here, just for my clients, my job is to make sure that they're getting the value for their money when it comes to their construction, because we have seen how difficult the construction process is here. And it's even worse when you don't have someone here in Jamaica that's advocating for you. So, having someone that is looking out for your best interest when it comes to building your home here in Jamaica, that is key. I have several videos on what it's like to have a property here in Jamaica, looking for places. And I recently posted one of my construction site visit videos, and that can give you some insight and some tips into what that process is like and why it's so important to have someone that is advocating for you. Something else that I've been seeing a lot lately, or not even a lot lately, another thing that I've been seeing, not a TikTok video. It's not a TikTok video. Another thing that is of concern to a lot of returning residents, of course, is the fact that safety and security is so important. A lot of Jamaicans who come back here are faced with a lot of the statistics about crime that happens. And as someone that's been living here since 2021, of course, that is a concern. But it's also a concern regardless of where in the world I've lived. Now, being in Jamaica, yes, there is a lot of crime. Yes, you hear about it on the news and you see the articles in the newspaper. And yes, it does happen to returning residents, but it also happened to people that live here locally. So is it any different because it's a returning resident? No. Yeah, there sometimes can feel like there is a target on our backs because people just assume that because you come from foreign that you have money or that you have this or you have that, which a lot of times is not really the case. A lot of us come back to Jamaica and we scale back on our lifestyles. We scale back on the amount of income that we've had because the income that I have now doesn't even compare to the income that I used to have when I lived in the US. So people might just assume that because I am a returning resident that then that means that, I have foreign money and I'm rich, or I have this or I have that. No, most of us are regular, hardworking people that have worked, saved up our money, come back home, and are trying to live life. That is it. So the target that's on a lot of returning resident is not worthy. It is definitely something that is of concern to a lot of us. I know even in my neighborhood, it's something that we think about because our safety, not just for ourselves, but our property, is important. So we, as returning residents, we kind of have to be vigilant just as we would in any other country that we're in to make sure that we aren't putting a target on our backs. So if that means a modest lifestyle, if that means keeping people at arm's length, if that means not letting people know where you live, do that. As crazy as that sounds, a lot of the times when you read those articles, it's usually someone that they know. So we just have to be vigilant. That's my best advice. I am also aware of the fact that law enforcement in Jamaica is not always as reliable as in other places. But again, we have to rely on each other when it comes to the places and the neighborhoods that we live in because sometimes the police don't show up when we need them to show up. Or if they do show up, they aren't always as helpful as we would need them to be. So we as Jamaicans that are coming back home, we kind of have to start figuring out things for ourselves. I hate to say that, but that's the reality of it. I know in places in other countries, the cops are not as helpful either. So it's not much different regardless of what country you live in. Yeah, the response time in the US might be better than Jamaica, but think about it. When you live in certain neighborhoods in the US, they response time ain't that fast either. So depending on where you live, that determines the level of service you receive. And I don't really think that that's much different here. I do think it is our job, though, to make sure that we are doing and taking the necessary steps to protect ourselves. So, whether that means that we need to have security systems installed or cameras posted up outside in front of your properties, or, making sure that you live in a community where security is a bit more vigilant. So, some of these are ways to improve the safety that you can have living here in Jamaica. But again, unfortunately, the onus is on us to really protect ourselves and our property. Yes, law enforcement is here. Yes, they do show up sometimes, and they do know what's going on. They're aware of what's happening, but we can't necessarily expect the same level of response that you may be used to overseas, because you're not overseas anymore. And that's the honest reality of it, is that our level of expectation when it comes to law and order and safety might have to be adjusted a bit. So the last portion of this video that I'm going to touch on is the social and business culture of returning to Jamaica and what that's like. And for most people, like I mentioned earlier, what you'll realize is that Jamaica does operate a lot off of who you know. So, I, when in Rome, you already know the rest. So, coming back to Jamaica, you typically have to start building relationships with people. And that can be difficult at first if you don't have anyone to help bridge that gap. And for someone that's been away for a very long time and coming back to their community, or even coming back to a new part of Jamaica that they may not have lived in before, it's not that easy to build those relationships. It takes time, and it takes, having someone around you that is also well connected, who can also help you connect those dots. So making that adjustment from coming from overseas, and making that adjustment to, hey, it's not about what you know anymore, it's really about who you know. That is an adjustment to keep in mind, because who you know in Jamaica can help you get things done and help you navigate things a lot better than if you were on your own. Now, we all know about the level of customer service that that you get. I'm sure you all have seen those videos online where they talk about how going to a Jamaican restaurant overseas or even here, and the nastier the attitude, the better the food. Yeah. As bad as that sounds, it's the level of customer service here can be a hit or miss, especially when it comes to government offices. A lot of the times, the experiences are not positive. The level of friendliness and care doesn't always come across. Now, out in the street, when you are dealing with people that are trying to sell you something, or trying to, you know, get you to somewhere, or whatever the situation is, when you're outside of government offices, I do tend to find people that are a lot more friendly. And I'm not sure why that is, because why can somebody tell me why Jamaicans have horrible customer service? Because to be the type of people that we are, and for the most part, I've met a lot of nice, warm, friendly Jamaican people. I have a lot of them in my life. But when it comes to business, oh God, man, we need to do better. Like the lady that I had to work with at the returning residence office, I still haven't forgotten the way that she was responding to me the day that I called her and was asking for help. It was like I did something to her. I remember asking her, like, it was a Monday morning. I'm like, are you having a good day so far? Because it don't seem like it. So I don't know what it is when it comes to that, but we have to do better when it comes to our level of customer service and the way that we interact with each other as Jamaicans. And coming back from overseas as a returning resident, I definitely was exposed to that level of nastiness coming from my own people that just didn't sit well with me. And I guess we just kind of get used to it, but that doesn't mean that it's okay. So it's definitely something that we can work on and we need to do better with. Another thing that I have been reached out to about is the fact that when it comes to building a social circle here in Jamaica, it can be difficult, especially if you're coming back here and you're by yourself and you don't really know too many people anymore. I know for me, coming back here, I had a lot of my family members still here, so the transition wasn't that difficult. But I'm also a loner as well, so I'm okay. Being by myself is not a problem for me. But for someone who may be an extrovert and enjoys the company of others and having friends and a big social circle, that might be difficult at first because coming to Jamaica, you don't know anyone. You don't necessarily know who to trust and who to rely on and who to befriend and or you have the observer? Can I get one, please?
Observer, Jamaican observer.
Yes, sir.
Not foreign, Jamaican.
Well,
Oh, you want a business? Yeah, I'm a cleaner, man. I just try to sell a cleaner and an observer, but she want an observer. Okay, you know more of me.
hey, how much is it?
220, price on the front.
Oh, so I was looking for you all day.
Yeah,
And you see how you come find me?
I went down here in the morning. I always come back like this time in the afternoon.
That is so perfect. You don't mind being on my video selling me my
I am it
newspaper.
already.
That's why I say you don't mind being
You
on the
give me
video.
a tip. I know you give me a tip, so no problem, baby. I like to be on the video.
Wait,
I like you.
Wait.
You're a beautiful lady.
you see that? You see
Yes,
that?
on the paper. Yeah, so the rest of them bring the paper to sell her.
Exactly.
You actually gave me tip. You got a lot of money. You're a rich lady.
No, don't say that.
You not rich?
I'm rich in Jesus.
Oh,
Christ.
rich in Christ.
Yes.
I'm rich in myself.
Yes. All right. Take care.
I like what you do. Let's keep it up.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a nice day.
You too. Look, I was looking for the newspaper. The newspaper come find me. So I got my hard copy of The Observer with me. Here. Look at this. Look at this lady. This lady looks familiar, y'all. Look at God. Look at God. He just came right and passed selling newspaper. Exactly what I needed. So now I have my own copy. But yeah, back to what I was saying. The topic of building a social circle here. Sometimes it's not as easy. I know I've been in touch with a few of the persons that's watched my channel and have reached out and we've communicated, and I'm looking forward to really meeting some of you guys and getting to know you guys, and who knows, maybe some of us can start having a friendship. The point of all of this, and I'm gonna kind of wrap this video up, but I do have some closing thoughts on this return in residence process, and especially since I just I just had that interview with The Observer. Some of the things that I talk about and others have shared is the fact that this process does not have to be this difficult. And the goal when I started this channel was to make sure that if I could help make this process simpler, smoother for anyone else, that I did. And I do feel like the impact that it has had over the last couple years has been great. Like, I've had conversations with several of you guys. Some of you guys still, message me and send me articles and videos of things that you've seen that's related to this topic. And I know it makes a difference. So now that I realize the gravity of this platform and what it can do, now my goal is to start trying to partner with and even, work with the minister of foreign affairs and foreign trades office to see what can be done to help make this process for us returning residents a lot smoother than what it is currently. um, there are a lot of issues that I faced even with the driver's license process, and my cousin with her nursing license. And my cousin brought up a really good point the other day about even coming back and having to get things notarized by a JP. It sounds so simple for persons that have lived here all of their lives or have known a JP all of their lives, but for a returning resident, think about this. You've left the island as a child and you return as an adult. And a lot of the people that you grew up with in your community have changed. Jamaica Jamaica has evolved. People have moved, people have passed on, and you decide to come back home to Jamaica and you're trying to establish yourself. The new JP in your community does not know you. He may have been familiar with your family, he may have been familiar with the people that are related to you, but technically he doesn't know you. But you're told you need to get your legal documents notarized by JP who has known you for X amount of years. Please tell me, as a returning resident, how does that work? How are we supposed to fulfill that? It's not always an easy task, especially when they don't know you. For me, it was a lot easier because I was going and coming for years before I returned. So I'm familiar with JPs and dealing with bank accounts and all of those things. But for someone who has not been back and is now coming back and trying to establish themselves, that is a difficult thing. I think there needs to be some adjustments that needs to be made when it comes to what applies to a returning resident and what doesn't. Because for a lot of us, the frustration comes in where we can't fulfill some of these requirements. Just being considered a young driver or having a young license when I've been driving for 20 something years is very frustrating. And for someone whose business rely on it, that can be a big, big deterrent, and it can be a lot of a hindrance. So my goal is to get rid of some of this bureaucracy that we have when it comes to us returning residents, and also just improve the process overall and make it a lot simpler for us. It also wouldn't hurt if these government offices were able to improve upon their customer service and even improve upon the speed of processing things for us. I'm not saying they have to become first world Speedy Gonzalez and applications are approved right away, but to wait weeks upon weeks for simple things to be addressed and to get your license, you're running from one place to the next and then back. Like, it's a lot. Can we please streamline? Can we please simplify the processes? Can we not have to run to 5 different places just to accomplish one single task? It should not be that difficult. I know we can do better. We have so many knowledgeable people that are coming back to Jamaica that have worked in these industries and these fields where we can bring the talents and the experiences that we have and come back and help improve the process here. Rely on us. Ask us for our opinions. Include us in the way that things change. You have a lot of talented people, a lot of educated people that are coming back. Utilize these skills and talents that we have. Create programs for us. Partner with us. Because at the end of the day, we are Jamaica. We are the ones that are participating in this Jamaica. One way or another, we're still a part of it. So treat us that way. Allow us to integrate smoother. Allow us to make a living faster so that we can sustain our life here. Not only does that help us, but it helps Jamaica. So, some of the things that I believe working with the government can do for us returning residents is to, one, address the red tape that we have to get through when it comes to starting businesses and encourage returning residents to, invest in Jamaica because ultimately that helps everyone, not just the person that's coming back. It helps the Jamaicans that are here. It brings income and funds and money into the country. So make that process smoother. And another thing is to start addressing the concerns that we have as returning residents, where some people do feel as if they have a target on their backs as returning residents. So, help us to understand that our safety is important and that, the Jamaican government is invested in making sure that we feel safe coming back home. Yeah, making sure that we streamline the return and residence process and even extending the amount of time that we have to import our items into the country. For me, it was like a strict timeline that I was on, and that kind of put a lot of pressure on people. So, even allowing us to giving us a year to get our lives together, especially people, you got to think about it. We are closing out our lives in one country and moving it to another country. That is not always an easy, simple 1, 2, 3 ABC process. Luckily for me, I was single and don't have any children, and literally it was just me. But for others that have children and, a family and house and all sorts of things that they need to tie up all those loose ends, that can be a bit of a process. And given someone 6 months, I don't think that that's long enough. And of course, just improving the customer service that we experience in a lot of these government office, that would go a long way. Just not having to feel like we're a burden will help. Just having a positive attitude towards us as returning residents and making us feel like y'all value the fact that we're coming back home. Like, I get excited when I hear that someone is able to come back to Jamaica and live. I don't feel that same sentiment when it comes to a lot of these governmental offices. And I do think that that would be a breath of fresh air where it feels like we are being welcomed with open arms, because that is kind of the message that the government, pushed out there, is that, oh yeah, please come back home, come back to Jamaica. But then when we start the process, those offices don't seem like they're ready to welcome us home. So I would say work on improving the customer service in those offices that are here to help us with our license and our business registrations and our tax stuff and all of that. That would be awesome. I'm definitely going to, push as much as I possibly can to work with whoever I possibly can in the government offices to make this process better for all of us returning residents. So if there's anything that I plan to accomplish in 2025, is to continue to make sure us returning residents have a smooth transition back home. Returning to Jamaica should be a joyful homecoming, not an uphill battle. While patriotism and love for the island remain strong, Jamaica must do better in creating an environment that truly welcomes its returning residents. You can definitely count on me, Jackie from Jet Setting with Jackie, to work on that for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.